Howard Schultz, From Extreme Poverty to Starbucks, Global Empire. Who is Howard Schultz? Howard Schultz is an American businessman and coffee magnate, best known for being the man who transformed Starbucks from a small coffee bean shop into the largest coffee chain in the world. Schultz was born on July 19, 1953 in the poor Brooklyn neighborhood of New York City, and he is still alive today. His story is not just about building a huge brand, but it is a story of poverty, determination, and seeing the future in a different way. His difficult upbringing made him a businessman who did not know how to give up, and made him one of the most successful figures in the business world. On the contrary, Howard Schultz's father was neither a millionaire nor a successful businessman. He was just a truck driver who worked for a low wage. His name was Fred Schultz, and he worked in low-paying jobs, such as driving trucks and working in factories, but he did not have any health insurance or a retirement plan. One day, his father was injured at work, making him completely unable to work, and he did not receive any compensation or financial support. Here, the family began to suffer from extreme poverty, as they had no source of income. This incident greatly affected young Howard and made him realize the harshness of life, but it also planted in him the motivation to achieve something great. His childhood and early suffering Schultz grew up in very difficult circumstances, as he lived in a government housing complex for the poor in Brooklyn, and he could barely afford to buy his own clothes. He saw his mother struggling to provide food for the family, and he had to work from an early age to help with the expenses. Despite this, Schultz was an ambitious and athletic child, as he loved American football, and this sport was his only way out of poverty. He received a sports scholarship from Northern Michigan University, which enabled him to complete his studies. But he did not know what he would do after graduation, especially since he did not belong to a family with connections or money. After graduating in the 1970s, Schultz began working at Xerox, which sold printers and office equipment. He worked as a field salesman, moving from office to office trying to convince companies to buy his products. This job was very difficult, but it taught him the art of sales and persuasion. Later, he moved to a Swedish company called Hammerblatt, which sold coffee-making equipment. This is where he first learned about a small startup in Seattle called Starbucks, which at the time was just a store that sold coffee beans and did not have any coffee shops. Schultz felt a great opportunity and decided to join the company in 1982, where he worked as a marketing manager. In 1983, Starbucks sent Schultz to Italy on a business trip, and there he noticed something strange. On every corner in Italy there was a coffee shop, but these coffee shops were not just places to buy coffee, they were places where people met, talked, and socialized. Then he had an amazing idea. Why not turn Starbucks into a social coffee shop experience like in Italy? When he returned to America and presented the idea to the original owners of Starbucks, they rejected it outright because they only wanted to sell coffee, not run it as a coffee shop. But Schultz did not give up. Because his idea was rejected, Schultz decided to resign from Starbucks and start his own business. But he did not have enough money and had to look for investors. He tried to convince dozens of investors of his idea, but he was initially rejected, as no one believed that a coffee shop could be a successful business on a large scale. Eventually, he was able to raise a small amount of money and launched his first coffee shop in 1985 under the name Il Giornale, where he tried to provide an experience similar to Italian coffee shops. He achieved modest success, but luck played its role when Starbucks owners decided to sell the company in 1987. Here, Schultz seized the opportunity, gathered all his resources and investments, and bought Starbucks in its entirety for $3.8 million. After acquiring Starbucks, Schultz began implementing his vision, expanding Starbucks branches across America and then the world, making the coffee experience unique by offering new types of coffee and creating a comfortable atmosphere in the branches. transforming Starbucks into a luxury brand, making people feel that it is not just coffee, but a complete experience. He faced many challenges, such as lack of funding and the difficulty of convincing Americans to pay dollars for a cup of coffee, but he insisted on his idea, and over time people began to love the unique experience that Starbucks offers. Starbucks' legendary success. By the 1990s, Starbucks had become one of the fastest-growing companies in America, and by the turn of the millennium, it had begun to conquer Europe and Asia. Today, Starbucks has more than 35,000 branches in more than 80 countries, generating billions of dollars in profits annually. As for Schultz, he has become one of the richest businessmen in the world, with a fortune estimated at more than $4 billion by determining the extent to. Persistence is the key to success. He faced dozens of rejections but did not give up. 3. Vision is more important than money. He did not have money, but he had a strong idea, which made him succeed. 4. Do not be afraid of change. He transformed Starbucks from a mere coffee shop into a global brand. If you are experiencing difficult circumstances or facing failure, remember that success is not limited to the rich or influential. Howard Schultz started from scratch and he had no support, but he believed in his dream and achieved the impossible. If you liked this story and want more inspiring stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button because we have many stories that may change your life. See you in the next video.